Well, something in particular to wonder about. Isolation's a pretty big theme, but herein is an example of how they accomplished a number of their things. I promised that I'd make a new video, essentially, as I reach another iteration of this bullshit. They refer to it as his time. So fucking stupid. It's because they've basically brought a lot of places to a standstill as of about the year 2016 or so. After the real year 2016, after a piece of shit Obama was elected, and time was wasted for a lot of us, and we went through a recession that they caused, which is true, they did cause it. Caused by manipulating markets and by having a few intelligent people that actually forecasted where a major vulnerability was going to occur. But their thing is early indoctrination. And they don't even so much as just teach people with, I should say, reasonable arguments. They appeal to their passions. They use the peripheral method of persuasion, essentially. But it's a little more than that. It's also neurologically training people to have certain characteristics which are helpful to them, which over time they have picked up on, like a desire for power. Or a desire for power that doesn't have any, how shall I say, scruples attached to it. Betrayal of one's offspring, things like that. But one of the methods they've been using is, if you recognize this film, their dream. I have seen people who look exactly the same from the 1980s in some place like Nebraska, where I traveled as a child on my way into Colorado. And the reason for this is that while they had accomplished their bullshit a few different places, they were still doing their best to run around and keep up a big show, which I feel is kind of stupid to begin with, because why would they do that? How does that benefit them to keep up a big show? Oh, keep things hidden. It's like, yeah, but if supposedly they've taken everything over, then they don't have to do that anymore, do they? Well, no. It's like, but the problem is this: there are these things called mirror neurons in the brain. Alright? As you grow older, these have a tendency, unless you're exercising them as a form of play consistently, these particular neurons, which are helpful in teaching a person how to behave or act like another person, absorb their tendencies and their traits, and socialize a person in their developmental years, start to die off. However, a person who spends their entire life lying and pretending to be other people, or who is being formed basically to completely imitate another person, accomplishes a method of hiding, essentially, and a method of takeover that they have grown interested in, where they will sit there and they will watch someone's life from a certain point onwards, and then they will try to put a person in their place by teaching them how to act at various points, or telling them different things until they become trained, having them interact with those people, or at least the copies of the people in some cases, trying to behave like them with some kind of motivation attached to it. And the methods essentially they've created are fairly decent. They've determined that a similar facial structure, length of vocal cords, about the same frequency size, will have a tendency to create vocalizations which are about the same to the, I'll refer to as hosts because they're parasites, pretty much. And then eventually you end up with somebody who used to be real, who now is replaced with our happy little friends here. you have to kind of understand also this particular I freaking like film was first made in 70s and 60s, I think, believe in the 70s, whenever they were first really making strides towards the fucked up shit they're doing now. And later remade this version, made in the 90s, you know. Boy, parents are so happy about their ability, I guess, to fuck over their children, because that's the thing. They had their siblings, at least, even though sibling-like loyalty wasn't something that was great between them. I didn't even have that. My sister essentially either got turned about or taken away, and she is now one of these monsters, replaced by a few copies. It's wonderful. Crazy line. What I find interesting is if you go a little further into the film, one of the ways that her supposed friend, a clone of her friend, tries to test her essentially is determine whether she still has a human connection to her brothers, for example, try to get her to act like she cares. Well, that's just like them, isn't it? And this would also be the second time I made this particular film. The people aren't going to win. You know that, right? Like, eventually something bad won't happen to these people. Let's put it that way.